Hey everybody, it's David here with Mortgage Solutions Financial, and I have Tonisha Jones with Salt Real Estate.
How are you guys doing?
So, what do you always say at the end of your videos? You always say...
Oh, hi, I'm Tonisha Jones, OKC Realtor here.
There we go. All right. So today I want to talk about the elephant in the room, and we're going to be talking about specifically VA transactions. And some of the things about VA transactions, especially on the real estate side, is that people are nervous and scared of them. They don't quite understand that the VA transaction is not any more complicated than any other transaction.
It is not.
Okay, so as a veteran yourself,
yes.
When you're servicing a customer, what do you do to kind of calm them down, especially when they're thinking, oh my gosh, I'm doing a VA loan. What's going to be my challenges?
Okay, buy side or sell side?
We're going to do buy side.
Okay, on the buy side, I feel most of our veterans, I don't even think they know. I think they know that they have a VA loan that they can use, but I don't think most people know how it works. And then you have a couple people that have done it and they were like entitlements and they start speaking about it.
Right.
But I feel for the most part, a lot of people are like, I know I have this thing, what do I do?
So with that being said, I would think, and this is just me, and of course I'm a lender, right? So I'm going to say everything should start with the pre-qualification process, right? You got to partner them with a lender, and it's important to understand that a lot of lenders do VA loans, but it doesn't mean that they specialize in them.
Correct.
So partnering them with someone that really knows and understands VA loans is extremely important.
Yes.
So I'm going to drop a shameless plug here. So Mortgage Solutions is that lender, and by the way, we happen to be one of the few lenders that are privately held and also veteran founded. So we're a little bit unique in that, but our passion is VA loans. So getting pre-qualified early in the process. Knowing, do you meet the criteria? Because the criteria varies based on when you were in the service. It gets a lot more complicated for folks that are reservist and guard. So you want to make sure they qualify.
Yes.
But once you know they're qualified, you get that pre-qualification. Are you looking for anything different when they're out shopping for properties?
I will talk to them about their expectations, especially their budget. So depending on what their budget is, they might be in a situation where there might be a lot of as-is properties. And so we talk about that because an as-is property, I won't say won't fly, just depending on what the condition of it is. So with those properties, normally the seller isn't going to make any repairs to the property. But sometimes I see properties that are as is, we walk through and I'm like, this property isn't bad. And so then we talk about some other things like, okay, well, if you're not willing to fix, even if we do our inspection and say you're not willing to fix, I don't know, X, Y, and Z, but the appraisal comes back and there are going to be requirements on that appraisal that the seller has to fix. Like, would you be willing to fix these appraisal items? And most of the times they do. So it just depends on the condition of the property that we are looking at. And if I think that we could still move forward on a deal, because I've had a couple of those situations.
In what I'm hearing from you, you're talking about property condition. So it's important for everybody to understand that it's not exclusive to VA. All the government-insured loan programs have minimum property standards. So FHA, USDA, and of course VA all have minimum property standards. So when the appraiser's out there looking at that home, regardless of what you've done on your inspection side, he or she is looking for particular things to make sure that it fits in the compliance box for the VA home loan. Most of that stuff is health and safety related, and typically when we see items that are listed as appraisal required items, I'm like, yeah, those should probably be fixed, right? So it'll be broken windows, or it'll be paint exposure. It could be no rails.
And those are pretty minor. And I think people, seller side, when they're like, oh, I don't want to deal with the VA or on that side, like most of the stuff that they are finding, they want their veteran to be able to move into this property. But 9 times out of 10, it's, hey, you need to paint the garage like the paint came off, or you need to have screens in the window, or you need to have something. It's been pretty minor stuff. It hasn't been any big thing that's going to scare a person off, but that can sometimes be a fear.
So that's one of the biggest concerns for a lot of people is, what is it going to appraise different, all those things. And let me put this out there so everybody says, VA appraisals, the value itself is no different than any other one. The USPAP rules that appraisers use to develop value is exactly the same as all the other loan programs. So if, for people out there that think they come in short all the time, no. Do they come in with repairs? Absolutely. But again, no different than any other government insured loan.
And then another thing that I talk to my buyers about, like, markets interesting right now, but for the most part, you can pretty much get a house. Now, say when we were back in the pandemic, that situation, talking to my buyers, and I tell them now, depending on when they are coming in, like maybe in the summertime, when the market is going to be hotter, like, hey, your loan is just as good as anybody's loan, but you do have some times, like if we get into a multiple offer situation and your loan is going up against cash is always going to be great. Or if you're going to go up through a conventional loan, that might be a difference, just because the fear that people are like, oh, if I deal with a VA loan, we're going to have to fix a whole bunch of things, or the appraisal's not going to come back, or it's going to be something crazy. So I do tell my clients that, but I'm like, let's go ahead and do it. This loan is just as good as anybody's loan. Actually, this is probably the better of the loans, but
it is. I think so.
Yeah, so that's...
I'm biased, though.
I've used the loan. I love it.
A user here.
Yes, I'm a real user. I'm a real user. And then on the sell side, I talk to my clients about, like, hey, these are some things that you're going to expect. Again, sometimes certain price points, but we can go to $1 million with the VA loan. We can.
Well, I'm going to pause you right there. She said $1 million. Know that VA, if you have full entitlement eligibility, there's no minimum loan for a VA, or no maximum loan.
Right,
I'm sorry.
right.
There's no minimum actually either. By the way, usually the lender will have a kind of a minimum.
But I feel like people are like, oh, we can't go use our VA loan to get $1 million home. We can.
Okay, now we're talking about this.
Yes.
I throw this out in one of the classes I teach, and people say, well, sometimes veterans, they don't buy the big houses. Well, let's remember, Warren Buffett is a veteran. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure that if he was going to use his VA loan eligibility, he would have no issue calling for a multi-million-dollar house. So there are veterans out there that were in the service, that exited, that had great, wonderful careers, and buy big houses.
Yes.
So keep that in mind. Like I said, our founder of our company is also a veteran, so he's done very well. So yeah, he could use his VA home loans to buy a multi-million-dollar property.
Right. So I just let them know, like, hey, these are some things that you may anticipate. These are the different loans that you may receive, for financing. And then I also let them know, like, hey, if you accept this loan, VA, FHA, just know, in addition to your inspection items that you may have agreed to fix, on the appraisal side, there could be additional items that you may need to fix. Right. And I explain, just so we can make sure the veteran is going into a safe home. And they're like, okay, I haven't had any issues, but I do know there are those fears out there. And I'm like, I'll take a VA clinic or VA client over anybody. Like,
and sometimes you don't realize, and I have some great stories when it comes to property conditions. Just recently, we had a couple mobile homes, because we do finance mobile homes. And exiting the back door, there was no stairs. So it was like a 4-foot drop. Mm-hmm. So no, that's not safe for anybody, including a veteran. Right. So they did have to install stairs with a rail. We want everybody to be safe. You might have to go out that back door if there's some sort of emergency event. Also, one of the things you hear a lot about with VA transactions is closing cost. Mm-hmm. Veterans typically know that VA provides 100% financing. But keep in mind, that's 100% of the purchase price or appraised value, the lesser of the two. Correct. Now there's the conversation about closing costs. Correct. And I love Google for a lot of things, but what I don't like it for two things. Number one, medical advice and home loan advice. So people go in and they'll Google, can you finance closing costs? And Google says yes, but they're talking specifically about the funding fee for VA loans. So not everybody is subject to the funding fee, but if they are, that could be financed in. But closing costs themselves, appraisal and title work and prepaids for homeowners insurance, all these things that part of the transaction are not actually financed in. So if somebody doesn't have a lot of cash to work with, they have their VA home loan, what are their options? Like how does that deal get worked?
So normally I'm going to always try get the seller to pay closing costs. So for VA loans specifically, it's up to 4% that the seller can cover. So that's 4% of the purchase price. So depending on what is happening, we may ask for certain things, but I'm always going to try and get closing costs for my buyers paid by the seller.
Right. And since we're talking about miss, use the number 4%. And it's important to understand that's 4% of the buyer side only, right? So we've seen transactions where if you look at the overall, it's been 6, 7, 8, 9%. So that's just, so if you're wondering about closing costs, chances are you're probably going to get it all included if you want it. So how does that work as far as if you're out hunting, there's a $200,000 house, and they're not going to pay closing costs. They're like, hey, it's $200 out the door. How do you work that?
We finagle. do some things. We do all the things.
So tell me some of the magic. What are some of the things that you've seen before in the past that works?
So if they're at 200,000, I normally always get some closing costs. So I've been able to work.
We're in that market cycle where closing costs are much more common. A lot of the builders out there are doing incentives.
So I'm always asking for that. Also, I'll reach out to lenders. I'll reach out to like, hey, are you guys going to cut some of your fees? Or do you guys withhold? Maybe do you pay for the appraisals? There are some things that I will try and have them do. Also, when it comes down to inspections, if we're able to get some things from the inspections, maybe the seller will, in lieu. I don't even know if I can say that with a lender.
Well, I think what she's alluding is sometimes in lieu of minor repairs that aren't appraisal required, right? You can get a credit for that.
Yes.
And sometimes you can use that for
so we can use that toward. Okay, so we'll do that with my buyers to kind of help get some stuff as well. Are there some additional things that you try to do?
The main thing in what I'm trying to convey, make sure everybody understands that when it comes down to it, just because you don't have a lot of cash doesn't mean that you can't buy a home, right? There's the myth of you're going to have 20% down on conventional loans. That's not true, right? VA loans are completely different because people know that they have the 100% financing. But when it comes to closing costs, don't think that you have to have $7,000, $8,000, $9,000, $10,000 saved up for closing costs because that's negotiable. I love real estate because it's the last frontier of negotiation.
Yeah, it's
right. Everything is negotiable.
Everything is negotiable. Everything. So I do appreciate that. And then another plus or an advantage is no PMI. So that's always good. So the PMI insurance is there to protect the lender in case you were to default on a loan. They'll put an insurance on there that's normally paid if you don't put down up to 20% of a property. But for VA loans, that is not there. So that is another plus. So you're saving some money there as well.
VA does it's called the funding fee. But if you are in this case, if you receive VA disability benefits, any percentage doesn't make any difference. You're going to be exempt from that. Now, people will say, well, I'm active duty. Well, if you happen to have a Purple Heart in your active duty, you're also exempt from it. So, not that you want one of those.
Right. I don't want that.
Guys, don't go out trying to get a Purple Heart so you can get a property exemption or an exemption for funding fee. But the main thing for everybody to understand is that the VA home loan is very flexible. It's a great program. It's important to partner with the right lender.
Yes.
It's nice that if you get a real estate professional that is experienced in it, as they're out looking for properties, they can tell you what some of the concerns might be. Nothing is a reality till the appraisal comes in, but it's always great to partner with the right person. So, are you the right person?
I am the right person.
All right.
Yes. Oh, I will say, speaking of lending, because David's great, done a couple with him, but also wanted to talk about, I feel like sometimes we're like, hey, we were with X institution and I'm going to get pre-approved with X institution. Hopefully, if you haven't been already pre-approved or you haven't talked to a realtor, talk with somebody so they can talk about some other programs that might be available or some local lenders in the area because they may be able to get you better interest rates, maybe save on some fees or some other things versus sticking with your bank because I feel like a lot of people don't know and they're like, yeah, I got pre-approved through X institution, and there could be definitely some better deals out there because that's what happened with me.
Well, I'm going to drop this one little thing here, and it's working with a local lender is important, right? When people are making offers, they like to see lenders that they know and that have worked with before in the past. And there's some major lenders out there that service the military community, and they're all great. So we're not going to mention any names, but they're great lenders. But having a local lender is probably better. There are also some programs, down payment assistance, that they can still be accessed. We participate in a $5,000 grant program for veterans. Those are limited really to local community lenders. So there could be some things out there. So number one, get with your real estate professional. They're going to partner you with a great lender that they have some work experience with. You don't want to go out and Google lenders. You're going to regret it. So that's the key thing, and just know that local obviously is better because real estate changes from market to market, and I'm not just talking about from state to state. I mean, Oklahoma City is different than Tulsa, and Tulsa is different than Lawton, and Lawton is different than Eden. So you really want somebody that has boots on the ground in that market. So if you have any VA questions, how do we get a hold of you? All
right, you can reach me on social medias, Tonisha Jones Realtor, across all platforms. Also, my number is 405-653-8052.
All right, we're going to have that in there. And of course, you guys already know how to get a hold of me. David, Mortgage Solutions Financial, taking care of those veterans because we love you guys.
All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.